Now it wants to work. What's up? What's good? What's happening? Welcome to the King and Me show. I'm King.
Hey y'all, it's me, Michelle. I don't think we're live though.
We are live. It's gonna take it a second. I can look and see that the signal's right here, and if I come here, it should be showing right there as well. So it's just a delay.
Oh.
We are live.
Hey.
Apologies for the technical difficulties. I am not sure exactly what was going on. It looked like there was an update to OBS. OBS didn't say that there was an update. So here we are. Again, I'm King.
I'm Michelle.
We here at the King and Me show attempt to offer a real outlook on a healthy relationship, real being relatable,
entertaining,
accountable,
and loving.
We never said this thing would be without its technical glitches.
Nobody
almost thought
told me
that we were good to go.
road would be easy, and I don't believe what.
First of all, why are you wearing all black?
Look, I'm in mourning right now. Okay. No, I'm not in mourning about anything that may have happened in Washington, D.C. today.
Okay.
I am currently in mourning because my Ravens lost.
Yeah, the Ravens ended up losing this past weekend.
My Ravens lost.
Thought they were set up. You know, I blame me, and here is why.
You know I'm not going to.
You are a lifelong Ravens fan.
I've seen them in the Super Bowl twice. Jesus, twice.
I used to be a fan of the Falcons before I became a Ravens fan. And when the Falcons lost in that Super Bowl to the Patriots a couple of years back, that's when I renounced my Falcondom.
Oh, why are we winning?
And became a Ravens fan. So if you want me to jinx the Commanders, I can certainly do it.
Actually, can you become a Chiefs fan?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, hail to the Chiefs, or whatever it is.
Commander song?
I think they used to be hail to the Redskins. Yeah.
That's a Commander song.
Hail to the Chiefs, or whatever the Chiefs thing is. I got to go get Chiefs gear to make it official. So I'm placing the Amazon order, and I am publicly rocking the Chiefs jersey. I'm telling you, it will guarantee that they lose to the Bills next week in the conference championship game.
Yes.
I got you.
Thank you.
But we're not a sports live stream, or I don't even want to use the word podcast, because this isn't a podcast.
This is so much more than a podcast. We're like a family.
We're choosing.
We are a family. I don't know the rest of the words to that song.
To share our lives publicly. And that comes with its good things and its bad things, right?
Yeah, like, you know, people attack me.
You have supporters.
People attack me.
People also support you. Think bigger picture.
Bigger picture. People attack me.
What do they attack you for?
Because they are incompetent and can't read and don't, like, I'm still talking about that one post. That one post that is still getting so many views. The video has gone viral. And the men flock, like they run like a herd to the comments, bypass everything that they read, and just immediately go and say, oh, you see how she changed the subject? She deflecting. So instead of answering, she deflected. And I'm like, you done passed like 75 comments that have already explained what's happening in the video. But because you so bitter and holding on to such a level of anger and all that other stuff, like,
Shout out to Free T's in the building, said something. I missed the first part of it. And then, hey, y'all. Hey, Free T.
hey, y'all.
I gotta, see, you know what? I'll adjust things later, because we already started out with some technical stuff. Now, Michelle, today, we're going to talk about differences in dating, right? What inspired today's live stream?
Because remember when we first met, you used to say that we were oil and water.
I still think we are.
Okay. All right. And then I remember one day I asked you to explain like why we were oil and water. Do you remember what you said? Can you tell everyone what you said?
I feel like if I say something now, it's going to be different, but I'm going to try. I felt like we were two different people that while we were attracted to each other, I thought fundamentally we had some differences that we had to ask ourselves, could we work out if we decided to pursue something real?
Okay.
For example, you're a pastor.
Minister.
You're a minister.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
I ain't got my own church.
A pastor is somebody that has their own church?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're a minister. You see the inside of a church more often than I do. The last time before we met that I saw the inside of a church was at my homeboy Brandon's wedding in 2021-ish, somewhere around that time. Mm-hmm. And before that, I couldn't even tell you. So with our differences in religion, I felt as though that might be something that would be hard to overcome. Because culturally, there are some things that fit inside of religion, that there's culture within religion. And I haven't seen people that weren't on as equally yoked as people kind of misrepresent that. I haven't seen people that weren't on the same page really be successful. I think it's hard.
Okay. So you say that, and first of all, I did see Free T's comment. Thank you, Boo. I love you too. You, back then, when we talked about the oil and water thing, I said, well, who's oil and what you looking for?
My phone. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
You said who's oil and who's water. Well, I said who's oil and who's water. You said that you were water and I was oil. You said that you were water because, I actually don't even remember why you said you were water, but you said that I was oil because oil has so many different uses and capacity, and that's what related me more. So what made me think of this whole episode was that, yes, we have a lot of differences. We're oil and water, but I called you to tell you that oil and water still have their unique needs. So I was washing my locks, and it made me realize that you use water to wash and to cleanse things and to make it new, to make it fresh.
Okay.
But then you use oil to seal in all of that moisture, to lock in everything that you do. So your role in our relationship is to provide, to do all the things, to make sure that we are set, we're straight, we're good, everything's fresh and so fresh and so clean. And it is my role to come behind and make sure that I secure everything that you have already done. Every investment that you have already poured into our relationship, it is my job to come behind and make sure that it's solidified. Take what you have already invested, grow it, better it, make it stronger. That's what oil does when it acts as a sealing bond or as something to lock in something. You do, I lock in. And that's how I related it. I took our differences, though they be great at times, and use it for our advantage because it does make us stronger. So I wanted to come here today and talk to people who may be in a relationship with someone who may be, a little bit different from them or whatever, and offer that opportunity for people to see that you can still be different and still, find success.
All right. First of all, let me ask you a question. Do you accept your role willingly and without reservations?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right. And everything that entails.
And everything that entails.
Remember that conversation for next week's topic.
Oh, next week's topic about to be all the way live. What?
Remember that we talked about this.
Next week's topic about to be all the way live.
All right.
I'm like ready.
Shout out to the homie Pete. Pete, we have not forgotten about you, man. Tarika, nor have we forgotten about you as well. Life's been life and things have been busy, but we owe y'all some stuff and it will be sent. We guarantee that. Our word is bond, son. Nah, I mean, bet. Tell us a little bit about today before we get into our live stream.
What about today?
In general, what stood out about today for you? You have any thoughts about the inauguration before we get into it? How many households do you think got broken up over this inauguration?
What inauguration? There was an inauguration today? All I knew was that it was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the 39th celebration of it.
See, you could have led with that, but you chose not to. Don't be petty in today's world. Both things can be true. Yes, it is a day that we celebrate Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which I learned a lot about when we went to Memphis and the hotel and everything. He has a really interesting history.
If nothing else, I'm going to be an educator. But the other thing that I want to say is this. Today, many people think or are going to have an erroneous thought that they were, because I'm an educator and I use $10 words. Look, I'm sorry. I'm not going to dumb myself down for
Continue
anybody.
your thought, ma'am.
Anyway, someone is going to have that erroneous thought that they were off today for an inauguration. Fun fact, inaugurations take place on January 20th every cycle.
Yes.
Right? It just so happened that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is the third Monday of January, so happened to be January 20th, and it was the same day as Inauguration Day. But don't be mistaken, Inauguration Day is not a federal holiday.
I was going to ask, do schools typically have that off?
No.
Okay.
We are off today for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
I remember during the last election, because of everything that occurred, if you were, because I am a federal employee, if you're on my LinkedIn, then you know that people that worked in D.C., they told them, don't go into the office.
Yeah, now that's different. But no, typically schools are open. Now, what D.C. may do is totally different because that's D.C. public schools, and like that interferes with them. But by and large, no. Inauguration Day is not a federal holiday. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is, however. So, yeah. So that's what I choose to recognize for today. His birthday was was earlier this week. His life was taken, I believe, April 4th, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee. He was there at the Lorraine Motel for the sanitation workers strike, and he was there, and that's when his life was unfortunately cut down. And that's the man that I choose to honor today. That amazing man of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the husband of Coretta Scott King, and the father of so many wonderful children, including Dr. Bernice A. King, who is still out carrying on his legacy today, because homegirl went and she preached somewhere today. So that's the man that I choose to honor on this Monday, January 20th, in the year of our Lord 2025.
You most certainly can do that. What I would add, and this is something that I'm not saying this just to you, but I want to say it to other people as well. Even if you don't care about the inauguration, like I don't care about the inauguration in itself, yet as a free-thinking, critically thinking person on this earth, you should still at least have an understanding of what's going on in your government, which I know you do. I know you do. But still understand really what it means to have a change in government, because it's going to mean potentially a change in policy and lifestyle, and how that affects everybody, not just in the U.S., but what happens in the U.S. affects the world, whether other countries like it or not.
Like, you know me, I'm not really ignorant to what's happening, but I will be fully transparent. I didn't pay attention to second inaugurations of most presidents. Like,
I mean, they've already been there before.
That's what I'm saying. Like, real talk, I didn't. So Barack Obama's second inauguration, is that the one where Amanda Gorman did she read her poem then, or did she read it at the first one? I didn't pay a lot of attention to the second one. First one, yes. Bush's second one, the second one, I really didn't pay that much attention. I can tell you what day it happened, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it. But I see that we do have a question in the chat box.
We have a question. So first of all, Tarika's was the first one. Says, hey, how y'all doing? Tarika, we're doing fine. Thank you for joining us. And said, is it cold enough for us? 100%. I'm wearing shorts, so you wouldn't think that it was for me, but
it's single-digit temperatures out there.
It is single-digit temperatures outside up here. Hope you're doing well down south where you live. Pete said, Michelle, question for you. Would you ever step into a different church or religion?
I have attended many churches over the years. I have, okay. I grew up Baptist. So I grew up in Black Baptist church, not fully Southern Baptist church, which is a completely different beast in and of itself. But I grew up in the Baptist church, and we had our, I don't want to say rituals because I don't want to diminish what happened, but we had our own way of doing things in the Baptist church.
Your own culture, just something that I started out saying earlier.
We had our own culture in the Baptist church. However, as years went on, when I moved to Frederick County, I went to a missionary Baptist church, which is similar, except they have a greater focus on missionary work and volunteer work.
Okay.
And after that, I moved to the church where I am now, which is non-denominational. And then I lived in Virginia for a year, and I went to a really, really non-denominational, non-traditional church. I err more on the side of non-denominational, non-traditional. And that's because I have come in my 30 years of believing in God, I have come to the realization that it's not about religion, it's about relationship. That it's not about who can pray the longest on Sundays. It's not about speaking in tongues. It's not about being slain in the spirit. It's not about all of those things that I grew up thinking made you a Christian. What makes you a Christian is your relationship with Christ and the way that you engage with God's children. Like that's where it comes. Like, a Christian is someone who believes that Jesus Christ died for their sins. Number one, point blank, period. You go to some denominations, some churches, and they're like, well, you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be saved. And I'm like, but that's not what the Bible says. Like, that's literally not what the Bible says. So I don't believe in all of that. Would I go to a different church? Yes, I've gone to different churches. I have no issues. I've been to Catholic churches. I've never been to a synagogue, so I would love to see what it's like to be in a synagogue. I'd love to see what it would be like to go into a mosque. But as far as religion, no, I'm not up for changing my religion. I know what I believe. I believe that Jesus died for my sins, and that's kind of where I stand with that. And there's no going back on that for me.
Who are those that do the synagogues?
Jewish people.
Okay, I've been inside of a synagogue. I've been inside of a mosque.
I've never been inside of either.
I've been invited. Look, in my 20s, when I did a lot of traveling in my Air Force days, I probably did some stuff that I shouldn't have done, as far as because of my position and what I did, it may not have been the best thing at the time without notifying appropriate people about where I was going. But I've been invited. I mean, absolutely safe. Obviously, I'm here. But, things are different. Like, I've done some exploring on this world, which leads me to my next question. Thank you for answering Pete's question.
And he did have another question, too.
Let's see. Have you ever been to a Greek Orthodox, and would you ever like to?
I have never been invited to a Greek Orthodox, which is funny because one of my closest friends growing up as a child, her family was Greek, but they didn't really go to church that much. So no, I've never been inside of a Greek Orthodox, and I would go if someone invited me. Okay. Because I go and I support people in different capacities, which is how I've been to Catholic services before.
There's a question from Free T, which I'm going to ask, and then I have a question for you about our topic, too.
Sure thing.
So the question from Free T is, what made me a non-believer?
Okay.
Great question. In my 20s, as I said a couple of minutes ago, I did a lot of traveling. And like I said also a couple of minutes ago, I have been inside of mosques. I've been inside of a synagogue. I've gone to Catholic Mass. I've attended different religious organizations, meetings. And for me, at the end of it all, everybody sounded like what they did was right. So I'm like, if everybody's right, who's right? So it made me throw up my hands and go, nobody's right. Now, I don't infringe on anybody's beliefs. Your faith is your faith. whatever customs and cultures that come along with that, it is my goal not to disrespect it, step on it, do anything that is rude according to what's in your beliefs. But it was just as simple as that. It's like, man, everybody thinks that they're right. I'm confused because if everybody's right, who's right? So I just said, I don't think anybody's right, and I'm just going to go this way. So that's what got me on my path.
Okay.
Now, my question for you, being that we are on different sides of the coin with this, how is it that we can work?
So, and so many people have asked me that question, like, Michelle, you believe in Jesus and you go to church and you're a minister. How are you with King? My greatest concern has always been, and it's mainly because I saw this happen so much in other relationships with Christian men. If a man was trying to deter me from God, deter me from going to church, mock my faith, or anything like that, then I would have a problem. If you didn't do that, if you respected my beliefs, we would be fine.
I gotta call you out, though.
Hold on, before you do that.
Okay.
So I literally just had dinner with one of my friends, sister sorors, on Friday, and she asked that question, and I was like, it's funny, my pastor has asked me that question as well. And one of the things that I said to them, and I'm saying to you as well, is I went out on a date with a Muslim man before. And when I say a Muslim man, we're talking about he really did pray 5 times a day. And I know he prayed 5 times a day because I'd get that random text when he was in the midnight prayer. Like, hey, you up? Like, no, sir, I'm not up for midnight prayer. You're Muslim, not me. Okay? I'm asleep. But again, it's are you deterring me from God? Are you saying, oh, I can't believe you're going to service again? Like, weren't you just there? Like, why are you doing X, Y, and Z? They don't need you all that time. And I'm saying this because people have said this to me. Men that I have dated over the years have said those exact words to me.
It's unfortunate that you've written a lot. Great, because you have written a lot.
Because I'm long-winded.
Nah, it ain't that.
I'm kidding.
Is that you've talked about this, and I'm kind of paraphrasing because I don't have the source right in front of me.
Yeah.
But multiple times I read about you wanting a man of God or praying for a man of God.
Mm-hmm.
I read that and go,
Let me bow out gracefully.
Should I just say I don't think this could work and keep it moving? A lot of your early stuff did talk about that. What changed?
I'm not going to say it changed. I think, or I guess this is the definition of it changed. What I realized is that I could have the same, if not more, support from you. Someone who, while you don't ascribe to any particular faith, you actually do a lot of Christian-like things. And you and I, we joked about it when you found out your news that you found out earlier this year. But when I go back and I think of how the Bible defines love, when I think back to Corinthians and what it says in chapter 13, you are completely embodying what that love is. You have, in all seriousness, a lot more Christian-like tendencies than you give yourself credit for. And I get it. You don't affiliate with any religious beliefs whatsoever. But then I also had to look at it like, but God, is he pushing me towards you or away from you? He's pushing me towards you. Okay. Does he have issues with me being in the church? Does he have issues with me continuing to pursue and deepen my faith? Does he have issues with me going on spiritual journeys? No? Then okay. But if that ever changed, then that would be an issue. That would be an area of concern. Every guy, aside from you and the Muslim, that I've ever dated has been a self-professed Christian. And yet and still, you have been inside of a church with me more times than they ever have.
For the photography events? What? Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. All right. Now, religion is. Religion is. Thank you. Religion is one of those things that it's a big one. What else out there that, actually, I'll just go right into it. Interracial relationships or interracial dating. One of the biggest things that I hear certain people say is that they won't date outside of their race. Now, I know more people of color than I do.
No, you don't.
No.
Not your little 21% over there.
No, I know more people of color than I don't because of family. Pretty much because of family. My extended network.
Even your 21%.
Well, we might be finding out sometime later. A big reveal. Look, follow my TikTok. I'm not going to say it here, but if you follow my TikTok, I just recently discovered some kind of, would you say life-changing news?
I'd say life-changing, devastating, all that stuff.
All of that stuff. And I won't say it here, but if you go to the actual King Smith TikTok page, now that it's back on, yeah, my last couple of TikToks have revealed some stuff that I only recently discovered 2 to 3 weeks ago. That's all we'll say for now.
Okay.
But interracial relationships within the U.S., even in certain cultures, right? Like if you've only lived in Oregon and all you know is that upper left-hand side of the U.S. culture, to go and meet and date somebody that might be from Texas is a whole different ball game. So how would you tell people to approach looking at people that culturally don't come from the same culture?
So that's what I was going to say. When you said interracial, I'm like, I don't think the race matters as much as the culture.
As the culture.
And the reason why I say that is because so often you'll see two cultures come together and then the fruit of that coming together. So whether it be children, whether it be whatever, it washes away one of the cultures in pursuit of the other one. And that is what I have a problem with. I have a problem with two different cultures coming together and one culture getting diminished, pushed to the side, never acknowledged, or I have a problem with both cultures being erased. And then they're like, well, you know what? I'm going to pursue my own culture. I have an issue with that because there's so much history in both of your cultures and it should be honored. It's a tap thing. So when it feels like pressure, it comes on. So I look at my family, right? My mom, born in Jamaica, came to America in 1982. My dad, from Baltimore, met my mom in Baltimore, but he lived up in like Massachusetts, Maine for a period of time and was very much a hippie for a good period of his life. They came together. Both are black, but they have completely different cultures. And when they came together, and I say this respectfully of both my mom and my dad, I didn't get a good dosage of either one of those cultures. My mom did not teach me patois. I understand it, but I don't speak it. My dad didn't teach me like a plethora of black history. I didn't grow up in my household knowing about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X or Betty Shabazz or Ann Moody or Diane Nash or
Stokely Carmichael.
Stokely Carmichael, Bob Moses. Like, I didn't grow up hearing those names. And I feel like my dad deprived me of that. Like, and I'm just being, very respectful, going American. So my dad didn't teach me that. My dad's a black American. I didn't have that in my household. But then on the flip side, Mama, who's Marcus Garvey? Like, why did now former President Joe Biden, why did he have to pardon him posthumously? What did Marcus Garvey do? He's Jamaican. Why don't I know that? Why don't I know about Bob Marley? Why did I have to wait until I'm in my 30s to find out that Bob Marley and you, Mom, are from the same part of Jamaica? Like, y'all are both from St. Anne. That could literally be my cousin. Why didn't I get that history? So for me, it's not a matter of races. It's a matter of diluting culture, where I had two black parents and I didn't get either one of their histories. I don't know anything about the stuff that happened in South Carolina until I went and found out on my own. I don't know about the stuff that happened in Jamaica until I went and found out on my own. And I feel like when you bring two cultures together, you bring two cultures together. You don't dilute either one of them. You bring the fullness and the richness of both so that there's fruit of those two cultures. And if you can't do that, then don't intermingle those two cultures.
As a kid and as an adult, did you ever have a relationship of substance? More than friends, and you didn't necessarily have to date them, of somebody that came from a completely different culture?
No.
See, I have. In high school, I had a pretty decent length, high school length anyway, relationship with somebody that was from El Salvador. Mm-hmm. Another relationship with somebody that was from Colombia. Now, don't judge those two like, oh, you must have had a thing for them Central South America.
He had a type, y'all. He had a type.
And after my marriage, I had a short 6-month situationship with a young lady that closely resembled the color of this table from Pennsylvania.
Well, see,
Actually from Maryland-ish.
you said situationship. I messed with somebody who is
Okay, but in that, how often did y'all experience things from each other's culture?
not often.
See, I was up in high school for the different things that people from El Salvador or Colombia, what they celebrate. I was there for those events. They invited me into their home where I learned about their culture and was accepted, even as somebody that was a Black American.
And see, that's my thing. Like, that's where I'm like, it's not so much interracial dating. It's not so much intercultural dating that's an issue for me. My issue is when these two people come together and you either get only one culture or you get neither. And that's where my problem is.
Yeah, which is understandable. Now, what I didn't say, because I hadn't gotten to that part, is they also had attended some events like Juneteenth and stuff with me. One in particular didn't. And I'm past it. I'm not hurt by it. But it was a great relationship in all of those scenarios because they were open to my culture and I was open to their culture. And my point in bringing up all of this is that there are people that genuinely say, I'll only date Black, I'll only date white, I'll only date Jewish. And I wonder to those people, why? Ultimately, why? A lot of times, I'm gonna tell you what I hear. When I ask why, they say because I want Black babies. And when I ask a Black person that says I want a Black person, they say because I want Black babies. And then when I further speak on that, and then I'll hear, well, I know how to relate to them and what they're gonna go through when they come into this world. And if I were to get into another culture and they don't understand, there could be some static with that. And I'm like, well, then teach them both cultures. You learn that culture, get the other person that you fathered this kid with or mothered this kid with to learn the other culture, and y'all bring them into a world that is not just about what's in Baltimore, what's in Alabama, what's in Mississippi, what's in Washington, what's in Colombia, what's in San Salvador, what's in Germany. It's about what's going on in the world, period. I'm not saying we need to all live in harmony and things like that. I understand that some differences, which is dumb, can't be resolved. And a lot of that it comes from how you were raised. You put 50 babies from 50 different places in the same room, them babies aren't going to inherently hate each other. That's a learned thing.
Well, of course. But there is one thing I do just want to clear up. So Judaism isn't a culture. It is culture-esque, but it's a religion. So when Jewish people say that they will only marry a Jewish person is because that's what their religion says. Their religion says that you're supposed to marry another Jew so that you can continue on in the Judaism. Like, it's in the faith. Now, do they sometimes branch out and say, you know, I specifically want a Jew from this particular part of the country. I want this particular Jew who's Orthodox and, you know, this is what they believe, you know, all of that stuff. Or do I want a reform Jew? Yeah, they do go through like that breakdown, but Judaism is a religion. So that's why they say, I will only marry a Jew.
Thank you. Let me add something too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that there's anything wrong with inherently saying, I want XYZ only. Just understand, it will severely limit your pool of potential suitors by handcuffing yourself to a certain thing. When you can find somebody that can match you and rock with them if they're not a part of that same culture that you find later on in life.
I agree and I disagree. And the only reason I disagree is because it seems like the only group that seems to be having a problem with that are black women who say they'll only date black men. Like, I feel like that's the subset of people who are running into issues.
Why?
I don't see, considering the fact that women outnumber men in the world in general, I haven't seen a man who says, I'll only date black women and actually ran into an issue finding a black woman to date.
Speak more on that.
Have you, no, like legitimately, have you? Have you seen a black man who's like, I'm only going to date a black woman and he's run into issues finding a black woman to date? I ain't say quality. I said a black woman.
Well, so that's why I was shaking my head like, no, not really.
Okay. Whereas conversely, we know someone who said that they only want to date a black man and they have run into issues finding a black man to date.
Okay. Typically though, because you're right, you did say, I didn't say anything about quality. Ooh. Do I want to open my mouth and say this?
I see one of my sister friends is watching. Hey.
Hey, and also Paul Bennett's in the building.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Shout out to PB. Paul, I'd like to meet you and your fam, man. If that's next time that we're up kind of near your way. He's 30-something years in the game. Married. Him and his wife just had a lovely cruise that they went on.
Awesome.
And I enjoyed seeing the photos and videos of him and his wife on their cruise. We should go on a cruise. We got a lot that we're already doing the rest of this year, but we should make that happen too. Let's make that happen.
I want to go on a cruise.
First,
I want to go on a cruise.
I do too.
Okay, let's go on a cruise.
Let's make that happen.
Okay, let's go on a cruise.
All right, bet. Now, I think the reason why it's harder for black women to find a black man, there's not a lot of quality black men out there.
Hush your mouth.
And those that are available get snatched.
Make sure that part gets snipped.
Quick.
Trust me, I know that.
So it's not hard to find one. It's just hard to find somebody of quality.
And so I will say this, and I know this is going to sound so hypocritical. So bear with me. When I was in the dating market game, my only stipulation, once I got past the whole I didn't want to date someone who was married and I didn't want to date someone with kids, once you got past that, my greatest thing was I didn't want to date a Jamaican. I just said I was going to sound like a hypocrite in saying it. I didn't want to date a Jamaican.
Why?
Oh, I have my reasons. So, blessings, curse of growing up in my household, when I saw Jamaican men, I saw overly controlling men.
Okay.
And I saw that because that is what I saw in my household. My uncles were overly controlling and domineering to the point where my mom has no sisters. Like, my mom is the only girl. So her brothers are all married. And honestly, they all, and I say this with love, they all married the same woman. A quiet, docile woman who says and does absolutely nothing.
Winning, playing,
Stop it.
joking. I shouldn't have said that.
They, like, my aunts by marriage are all very meek. They are all very quiet. They are...
Just don't worry about what I'm doing.
They are very much, provide for the household, seen but not heard type thing. And when I was growing up, I wasn't about that life. Like, although I was shy, I am shy, although I'm introverted, all that other stuff, that was not me.
I ain't heard nothing bad.
Stop. But more so, they were mean and they were controlling. And then I thought of my brothers, and my oldest brother wasn't mean, but there was that element of control. And then there was my other brother. And when I collectively thought of the, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. When I thought of the 6 Jamaican men that I was around for my childhood, I was like, I want no parts of that. I would not date a Jamaican man.
Let me ask a question to be clear. You don't have to give a specific example of something from your family. I'm not asking that. But I would like to know what you mean by controlling.
So, my mom's eldest brother, there's an age gap relationship between him and his wife, right? He met his wife in Jamaica. He married her. He brought her to the United States. His education was first and foremost, and she just like popped out babies and took care of the home and everything like that. And I guess because I didn't see that in my household, I didn't receive that well. Like, to this day, my aunt just doesn't speak up a lot. She doesn't say a lot because that's kind of like how it was. You were supposed to be seen and not heard. Same thing with, my other uncles and their wives. The women are seen and not heard. Like, they'll say something every now and then, but like, other than that, it's like, it's nothing. This is the time that we go to church. This is what we do. This is what we don't do. And like, that was just said and set by my uncle, and this is how it was. I didn't grow up with that. Like, when you grow up in a single parent household and a single parent is your mom, like, you don't see that. And I saw that my mom pulled away from all of that. And while I didn't know when I was younger, I realized when I got older, my mom intentionally didn't teach me her Jamaican heritage for a reason.
Why? Because I'm still not catching it.
I still don't understand it fully. I've inferred that she didn't teach me all of those things because there were some aspects of Jamaica that she wanted to leave in Jamaica.
Okay.
So I'm like, there's a reason why she's doing that. And I've just always kind of like held on to that.
Have you ever asked her?
Yeah, my mom don't answer questions.
That generation don't seem to want to answer questions.
Yeah, Chicky don't answer questions.
Okay. We've talked about differences in culture. We've talked about differences in religion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2 biggest things when it comes to differences in dating. Can you highlight or think of any additional thing that people are running into when it comes to differences and trying to find somebody to do life with? Because that's what we're talking about. Because again, it's not hard to just, you get a piece of me, you get a piece of me, that's not hard. But finding somebody that you want to do life with, that y'all are compatible, that seems to be kind of tricky. So what other differences are out there?
I think one of the things I see is the level of success. Well, first of all, our definition of success, and then people who vary on that. So what I mean by that is, the more successful a woman is, especially if she's, climbing the rungs of success single, it's harder for her to be able to find a man who is on par par with her.
Why? Don't censor yourself. Why?
I think it's because the farther you go up that ladder alone, the harder it is for you to accept anyone who's not already at that, like waiting for you at that level. And as you said, the farther you go up, the thinner the air is and the less options you're going to run into up there. And I think that that's something we run into. So, you know, the more education a woman has, the harder it is for her to get a man. Especially, and I'm not, you know what, I'm not even going to limit it to race. The more education, the more money a woman has, the harder it is for her to find a man to be with.
Why do you think it's harder for that dynamic to work, though, versus the other way around? And I'm not trying to make this like a gender division thing, but it is generally true. A man can find a woman that isn't on the same socio-economical ring as he is, and they can still have a happy, successful marriage. But you take the flip side of that, and you're talking 1% of 1% of 0.5% of that relationship working out. And to me, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I think you also have to look at it typically, when a man is that successful, he may be a little bit older. Taking Mark Zuckerberg out of it, he's an exception to the rule. You're typically going to run into an older guy. And that woman that he's going to find that, you know, he can mold, he can shape, who is going to be okay with him pursuing everything that leads to the financial situation where he is, she's going to be younger. So you're looking at that age gap relationship right there. We know that age gap relationships typically work out when the man is older and the woman's younger. But conversely, when you have a woman who is that successful, we're automatically not looking at a woman in her 20s generally. We're looking at a woman in her 30s. Mm-hmm. So unless she can connect with a man in his 30s who is willing to date a woman in her 30s and continue to climb the rungs of the ladder of success together, then her only option would be a 20-something-year-old or someone younger than her. And typically a woman is not going to do that.
We saw really...
Typically, I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
Yeah, typically.
I believe Madonna's with someone younger than her right now.
Who was it that got divorced and became an instant billionaire themselves? Was it Gates that got divorced and then went for the high school teacher and that didn't work out? One of those famous people that have money that I can't think about, when they got divorced, the ex-wife got with a English teacher, like a high school English teacher. And everybody and their mama was like, that ain't gonna work. And when it didn't happen, I was one of the people that was in the category of that can't work. And then it was like, yeah, told you so. Because like
Don't censor yourself.
I'm really just trying to figure out how to say it so that it makes sense. I don't understand why gender dynamics work that way. Because to me, if a person A likes person B, let's say if person A is the lady and she's a multimillionaire and person B, who's a man, doesn't have the same assets, it can still work out. And I ain't just saying it can work out because of love. Love don't fix and make everything work. It takes effort. But
the other thing is, a woman who is that successful has gotten to that level of success by not typically being docile, not being overly submissive. So it's going to be hard to get her to be that way and to do that. And that's typically what a guy is going to look for. No.
If you come into something that makes you a multimillionaire and you need it to be aggressive and all other types of things that a typical man doesn't find attractive, but some bread comes along with that, by all means,
Be aggressive, be aggressive. Okay.
Go after it. If you decide to kick me to the curb because of whatever, and I'm still supporting you, then I hope whatever karma that comes from that comes to you and you alone.
I love you. I'm not going anywhere, mister.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You say that.
As long as we can move to Greece. So if I become super duper smelly
I'm out.
rich,
I'm out.
we're going to Greece, right?
Yes, I'm out.
Like,
In a heartbeat.
I just want to make that like really, really plain and really, really understood.
Yes.
We're moving to Greece.
On the same page.
I need Grecian waters. Like, that's what I want to wake up to every single day.
On the same page.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now, there was something that I had, talk, so it'll come back to me.
Well, Free T just put in the comments, because the man is the provider in most cases, so it's easier for them.
William Buchanan said, sorry about the Ravens. Thank you, man. We're still over here mourning.
That's why I'm in all black.
Man, what did I have
and
for you?
Notice my hat has like stitches of purple in there. I'm a Ravens fan for life.
So we're talking about differences in money. Okay. Okay. So socioeconomic backgrounds. Should you stick to your own net worth?
So that depends on who you ask, because there are, especially like when you look at the caste system in India, there are some places where you marry within your social.
What's a caste system?
Caste, C-A-S-T-E. So it's a, how do I put this nicely? It's like a levels of societal hierarchy type thing. So India has this caste system where everyone's Indian, so it's not about race. Everyone's Indian, but some people are higher than others. And certain, like, the farther down you are in this caste system, the less respect, opportunities, all those things come to you. Again, all Indian, it's just a caste system. So,
like how I call myself king, so I'm royalty and I don't associate with peasants. Is that a caste system?
Yes, that could definitely be defined there. So I remember reading a book, The Origins of Caste, and I think you remember like me talking about it and everything. And I was reading about that. So in that caste system, you don't date outside of your caste. You don't date outside of the level that you are on. So let's say that this is the wealth level for here. You have a minimum of $5 million in your bank account. That means that, you know, you date anyone who has 5 million to 10 million. Like, this is your window. This is your baby. You date someone outside of that, and it's a problem.
Why is it a problem?
Because if you date below, you're dating beneath you. Like, you were dating beneath your worth. This person can come and get you. Like, if you date people who are on the same level as you, then they're not going to gain anything from being with you. You know what I mean?
Whoa, so it's saying like in this caste system, ain't nobody trying to bring nobody up from the mud.
Basically, no one's trying to bring anyone up from the mud, but then also no one can take anything from you. So let's say the relationship doesn't work out. Like, it's mutually beneficial to both, but then if it doesn't work out, neither one of you can take from the other because you both came in with the same thing.
Okay.
If we both come in with the same level, then neither one of us benefits if something doesn't work out, but we both benefit if it does work out.
It sounds like something I like. This sounds like the way things need to be.
Except, like, when we look here, we look at things in America through a racial lens, that, you know, certain races get treated better than others. Whereas in places where it's a caste system, everyone looks the same, but they are getting treated differently simply because of their wealth and where they sit in society. Like, is that really better?
Yes. I'm not going to treat a crackhead the same as I would a non-crackhead.
We won't pretend like you ain't just say that on air. But okay. But so, like, that's what I'm saying. So, like, that's what they go through. You don't date anyone outside of your class, outside of your caste, because it could bring potential problems and stuff like that. Which is why when you look at old English, when you look at the monarchy and everything, as we're looking at UK, England, all that great stuff, when you look at all of that, England essentially, the reason why they kept marrying cousins is because that's how you keep the wealth within your family. Like, that's how you keep everything in-house. Like, the rulers and the monarchy continue to marry within their family because they were the only people of the same class and caste and could handle all of that. And you didn't have to worry about some peasant coming in and trying to take over and rule everything and having a seat on the throne, and they didn't deserve it.
Okay. Then let me ask you this.
What's that?
When we're talking about differences in dating, what are the things that can make it work?
You have to have two people who are willing to make it work. Like, I'm sorry, like, there's no other way around it. You have to have two people that, despite everything, they're willing to make it work.
Despite everything. So my overbearing mom is hoarding my inheritance over the fact that if I marry you, then I'm not going to get my inheritance because she doesn't think that you're worth it. I have to ignore that if I'm really trying to make a life work with you.
And not, like, hold it against me later on in life, yes.
$50 million. This relationship is worth $50 million. That's asking a lot. I'm joking. But what if I wasn't?
I was going to say something, but I'm working on not being petty this week.
No doubt.
That's my goal for this week.
All right. Do we have any other comments before we wrap up today's show?
Yeah.
Paul Bennett said, great discussion, definitely Kevin Samuels type discussion. All right. Hey, Paul, thank you. Free T said, Tarika said to Free T, how are you? So they talking amongst themselves.
Okay. But yeah, like, it's a lot to consider. It's a lot to take in, but being different doesn't mean that you can't be together. You have to acknowledge those differences, call them out so that you can, not call them out, bring light to them so that you can learn how to work and go from there. Like, it's one thing if you step into a relationship knowing these differences, and it's something completely different if you're in the relationship and then you find out these differences later. Like, these are things that fall back on conversations. Have you talked to your partner about this? Have you two considered what this looks like? Have you all gone forth and in depth and, like, really, really weighed things out? Another difference that also tends to get people is their belief on children.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we forgot about that.
Yeah.
Children, like,
I know.
are we going to have kids? Are we not going to have kids?
We're at 9 after, but let's talk a little bit about that real quick.
I got a delay that'll hopefully turn into a closure tomorrow. But do you want to have kids? Like, those are like, you just need to be willing to talk. You have to get past the, oh, he fine. Oh, she looking all right. You know, you have to get past the looks and really, really have heart-to-heart conversations with someone before you go and you're, like, trying to build anything with them, because you have to know these things to be able to iron them out and see if it's livable. Like, is this something you can live with? Because if not, let's make these adjustments now.
What you just said, I couldn't have said any better. Understand what the differences are. Don't call them out, but yeah, shine light to it, highlight it. Understand that you are going to have differences, but it's what about you and I, what we agree to, what y'all agree to, that's going to either make or break that relationship. So I think that right there, that's an excellent thing for people to consider. I would say don't ignore somebody because they're different. Don't just put them on the back burner just because they're different. It could be worth exploring and just shine a light to it, highlight it. Make sure y'all both have a healthy understanding of what those differences are. But if you can at least communicate those differences together, a beautiful thing can work from it. I feel that way anyway.
I agree. Like, you and I, we have our differences. The greatest three differences, I would say, is our religious beliefs.
Agree.
I would also say our culture is different.
Agree.
You have that Southern culture that you grew up in. I have that Northern Southern culture that I grew up in. Stop it. Maryland is a Southern state.
No, it's not.
It is in the South. The Mason-Dixon line is above us, okay?
What's the third thing?
The third thing...
Because I have a thought of the third thing, but I want to hear you say yours.
The third thing that I would say is we have a difference on how we perceive race and inequality.
Oh, then we have 4 things.
Okay, what's yours?
Fundamentally, you lead with emotions and I don't.
Oh, yeah, that.
So that in itself can be challenging. I'm just going to say that like that.
You refuse to admit that I am right.
No. I will tell you when you're right.
I
tell you all the time. Oh, you know what? You are right about that. I say it all the time.
I know. I just felt like picking on you.
Why me? So.
Because I love you.
Let's close out the show by acknowledging some of the comments that we have here, and then we have some announcements, and then we'll close out the show.
Paul Bennett asked a question that I feel like is heresy or blasphemy. It's something E.
He said the real question is, can a Ravens fan and a Steelers fan marry? Absolutely. Matter of fact, that kind of household is a household that during the football season I want to be a part of. Invite me. If you're a Ravens Steelers combo fan, invite me to y'all's house during football season. That's got to be a good time. Now, we have a couple of announcements and then we're in the show. Biggest thing coming up, I'm having surgery this Friday. I'm having an implantable cardiac defibrillator installed right over here in my quest to become a cyborg. Michelle, straight up thoughts, how do you feel?
I'm going to be very honest. This is the second time today that you said installed. Not implanted, but installed.
It was intentional today.
And both times?
The second time for sure, because I remembered your face the first time I said it. I kept that
was
as
just
a
like,
nugget.
why is this man saying that he's having it installed like he's a computer program? Cyborg.
Yeah.
So honestly, that is making me laugh. That's making me chuckle. I'm at peace with it. You want to know honest opinion, and the funny thing is, I'm not concerned about the surgery. I'm just like, oh, what's this recovery period going to be like? Like, that's kind of where my mind is now. Like, I'm past the surgery. Just like, what's this recovery period going to be like? What's he going to be able to do? What's he not going to be able to do? You live in a house that's surrounded with stairs. So I just want to make sure that, like, you're okay and that type of stuff.
Okay.
Otherwise, cool.
Same. That's kind of where I'm sitting at now is I've had some conversations with people. I've done some reading. If there's anybody out there that's had one recently, shoot me an email, theactualkingsmith@gmail.com or thekingandmeshow@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear your story or just have a chat with you on Zoom or something, just to have an understanding of how things are for you once you've had one. I'm at peace with it. I'm good with it. Step 2 will be that Neuralink chip that, I'll have installed a year from now. But I do want to thank you, first of all. So Michelle is going to be someone that, let me say this. Thank you.
Just never get when he starts to thank you. Go ahead.
I'm purposefully putting a lot on her when it comes to people seeking updates and things like that. She is going to be the one for those who care that is giving the updates. Do not ask me. Do not come to me. I've asked for Michelle to take that and she said yes. Now is the time for you to back out if that's going to be too much for you.
It's not going to be too much for me. Not at all.
Okay. So thank you for doing that. Michelle is likely going to pretend to have it all together. I hope that you do. If there's anybody...
Administration is my gift lane. What are you talking about?
So my ask Y'all don't worry about me. Give her some support as she helps me, because Michelle's going to be doing some things. She's going to have to help me with some stuff, like up the stairs after I get back or whatever. Driving, because I can't drive afterwards. If I'm going to be honest with you, if I didn't need anything, I wouldn't have asked, but I know you would not have allowed me to do something like that anyway. So seriously, thank you.
You're welcome.
I ask that people also check in on her as well. Because step one of my cyborg, I'll be all right. So, anything else that we need to announce before we close out today's show?
Next week's show is going to be amazing. So make sure you tune in. Did you ask Paul the question?
No, Paul.
So Paul,
I'm gonna send. Paul, I'm gonna send you a DM on Instagram. I need you to respond to it, but I'm not going to give you any context. The question is going to drive our topic for next week, and I believe it's an interesting one.
And just so that no one else is feeling some type of way, we are intentionally asking people that we know are in relationships.
Actually, go ahead and ask the question here.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
Okay. I need the wording.
Because we aren't giving additional context until next week. So go ahead and ask the question.
All right,
here.
so
Paul, you don't have to answer it here. Actually, yeah, do answer it for engagement.
The question that we're asking that's helping to build our show for next week is, you can only choose one. So couples, you can only choose one. Are you choosing protect your woman or stand by your man? Which one is more important? Protect your woman or stand by your man. That's it. You get no additional context.
And you can't pick both.
You can't pick both. You can only choose one. That is what we're using to help set the foreground for our topic for next week.
And if you think you know what this is about, I guarantee you don't.
You don't.
So, fun episode. I thought, hey, we're back in our original studio.
Back in studio. Hey!
We had some technical difficulties getting started. So, for those of y'all that rocked with us after we got started about 10 minutes late, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see y'all next Monday.
You'll be a cyborg by then.
I'll be able to be here in this chair and in the computer at the same time. So we shouldn't have any glitches. Watch, we won't have any glitches next week because my plan to become a cyborg is starting. Guarantee it. Love y'all.
Bring
Thank
the
you.
lips over here. Come here, sir.
I gotta do some kissing. Hope that sounded juicy in the mics. And we out. Peace. Uh-oh. There.